If you're hearing this, stop. Don't move. Don't make a sound. I don't know how much time I have left, but you need to know there's something in this mall with me. It's not human. It's not even close. Every night, it gets bolder, closer. My name is Riley, and this is day 47 since the world ended. I thought the apocalypse would be empty, silent, but the real terror isn't the quiet. It's what's hiding in it. Last night, I heard it whisper my name from the darkness. If you think you'd survive alone, you're wrong. The nightmare doesn't start with the end of the world. It starts when you realize you're not alone. The first week, I convinced myself I was safe. I set up camp in the old security office, living off stale pretzels and warm soda. But on day 7, I found a bloody handprint on the inside of the toy store window, fresh, dripping, and too high for any child. That night, I heard footsteps echoing through the food court, slow, heavy, deliberate. I held my breath, heart pounding, as the steps stopped right outside my door. I waited, counting every second, until the silence returned. But the next morning, the handprint was gone. On day 15, the voices started in the vents. Sometimes they sounded like my sister, sometimes like strangers. They'd call out, "Riley, come out. We're waiting." I tried to believe it was just the wind, but the voices grew clearer every night. Then, on day 23, I saw a shadow move across the abandoned carousel, tall, thin, swaying, as if searching for something. I watched, frozen, as it stopped and turned, staring straight at the camera. The screen flickered, the shadow vanished. I stopped sleeping after that. Every time I closed my eye, I'd hear the carousel creak, even though the power's been out for weeks. On day 25, I found a trail of wet footprints leading from the fountain to the old electronics store. The prints were too large, too distorted, as if something had dragged itself across the tiles. I followed them, flashlight trembling in my hand, but they ended abruptly at a shattered display case. Inside, the glass was fogged with a message. "I see you." My blood ran cold. I spun around, but the corridor was empty. At least, that's what I told myself. That night, the whispers changed. They weren't just calling my name anymore. They started laughing, low, guttural, echoing through the vents. I tried to drown them out with static from the radio, but the laughter only grew louder, as if it was right behind me. On day 29, I heard something scratching at the security office door. I pressed my back against it, holding a broken chair leg like a weapon. The scratching stopped, replaced by a slow, deliberate knock 3 times. Then silence. I didn't sleep at all. On day 32, I risked leaving the office to search for supplies. The mall was colder than before, the air thick with the smell of rot and mildew. I crept past the shuttered stores, every shadow a threat. In the sporting goods shop, I found a flashlight and a box of batteries. As I turned to leave, I heard a soft, shuffling sound behind the shelves. I froze, heart racing as something brushed past the back wall. I waited, barely breathing, until the sound faded away. On day 34, I tried to convince myself I was imagining things. Maybe it was just the wind. Maybe the mall was settling, creaking in the cold. But then I found the escalator running. The power was out everywhere else, but the escalator was moving, slowly, groaning, as if something heavy was riding it up and down. I watched from behind a pillar, barely daring to breathe. The steps were slick with something dark, oil or blood. I couldn't tell. I waited for the escalator to stop, but it kept moving, grinding on and on, until the sound finally faded into silence. That night, I heard the music. The old PA system crackled to life, playing a warped, broken version of a lullaby I remembered from childhood. The melody echoed through the empty halls, twisting around corners, seeping under doors. I pressed my hands over my ears, but the song kept playing, soft, relentless, as if it was coming from inside my own head. When it finally stopped, I heard footsteps in the hallway outside, slow, dragging, getting closer. I held my breath, clutching the flashlight as the footsteps paused right outside the door. Then, a whisper, "Let me in." On day 38, I found a message scrawled on the wall near the food court. "You can't hide forever." The letters were jagged, written in something that looked like rust or dried blood. blood. I stared at the words, heart pounding, and realized they were fresh. I wasn't just being watched, I was being hunted. I ran back to the security office, locking the door behind me, and listened as the whispers started up again, closer, louder, more desperate than ever. On day 40, I tried to send a message out on the emergency radio. Static, nothing but static, until suddenly a voice broke through. It wasn't mine. It wasn't anyone I knew. It whispered, "You're not alone, Riley. We see you." The voice was layered, echoing, as if more than one person was speaking at once. I dropped the radio, heart hammering, and backed away. The lights flickered overhead, and for a split second, I saw a shadow dart past the glass. Too fast, too tall, gone before I could blink. I pressed myself against the wall, listening, but the only sound was my own ragged breathing. That night, I heard the carousel again. This time, it was moving. The music was warped, playing too slow, and the lights, dead for weeks, were flickering on and off. I crept to the security monitors, hands shaking, and watched as the carousel spun in the darkness. Something was riding it, a shape, tall, thin, hunched over, circling, never looking up. I stared, transfixed, as the shape finally stopped and turned toward the camera. The screen glitched, and the image froze on a single, blurry frame. Two empty, black eyes staring straight at me. On day 43, I found the doors to the loading dock wide open. Snow had drifted in, covering the floor in a thin, icy layer. There were footprints, bare, human, but impossibly large, leading from the outside to the center of the mall. I followed them, every step echoing in the empty space. The prints stopped at the fountain, where the water had frozen solid. In the ice, I saw something moving, something trapped just beneath the surface, reaching up. I stumbled back from the fountain, heart pounding so hard I thought it might give me away. The thing beneath the ice moved again, slow, deliberate, as if it knew I was watching. I ran, slipping on the frozen tiles, and ducked behind a row of overturned tables. For hours, I stayed hidden, listening to the wind howl through the broken skylights. Every so often, I'd hear a faint tapping, like fingernails on glass, coming from the direction of the fountain. I pressed my hands over my ears, but the sound only grew louder, echoing through the empty mall. On day 45, I woke to find the security office door ajar. I know I locked it. I know I did. My supplies were untouched, but on the desk, someone or something had left a single, perfect snow globe. Inside, a tiny figure spun slowly on a carousel, surrounded by swirling white flakes. I picked it up, hands shaking, and saw a message scratched into the base. "See you soon." I dropped the globe, and it shattered on the floor, water and glitter spreading across the tile. The lights flickered, and for a moment, I thought I saw a shadow standing in the doorway, watching. That night, the whispers returned, louder than ever. They filled every corner of the office, every vent, every crack in the walls. "Riley, come out. It's time." I pressed myself into the farthest corner, clutching the broken chair leg, and waited. The temperature dropped, my breath fogging in the air. The shadows seemed to move on their own, stretching across the floor, reaching for me. On day 47, I knew I couldn't hide any longer. The whispers had become voices, clear, insistent, everywhere at once. The mall felt smaller, the darkness heavier, as if the walls themselves were closing in. I packed what little I had left, a flashlight, a few batteries, a half-empty water bottle, and the broken chair leg. I stepped out of the security office, every instinct screaming at me to turn back, but I couldn't, not anymore. The mall was silent, but it wasn't empty. I could feel it, something watching from the shadows, waiting for me to make a mistake. I crept past the carousel, its horses frozen mid-gallop, their painted eyes following me. The air was colder than ever, and every breath felt like knives in my lungs. As I reached the food court, I heard footsteps behind me, soft, shuffling, getting closer. I spun around, flashlight trembling in my hand, but there was nothing there, just empty tables and overturned chairs. I kept moving, heart pounding, every nerve on fire. I reached the main atrium, where the skylight was shattered and snow drifted down in slow, silent flakes. In the center of the atrium, something was waiting. A shape, tall, thin, impossibly still, stood in the shadows, just beyond the reach of my light. I froze, unable to move, as the shape slowly raised its hand and pointed at me. The whispers stopped. The mall was silent, and then, in a voice that was both everywhere and nowhere, it spoke. "You're not alone, Riley. You never were." The lights flickered, and the darkness rushed in.